it is important to see how people, interact with their space, but also how they choose to present themselves.
Do I look old in this old school sweater? Today, we're diving in to how to identify emerging trends. Trends. Yes, what is trending, what isn't? I'll tell you who knows about that is a man by the name of Sebastien Fotu, and he is from Urban Barn. He's the creative director for Urban Barn, Canadian-owned, Canadian-operated. I mean, this guy has been forecasting trends for over 30 years, which, if you think about trend years, that's over 1,000 years, really. I mean, the guy's been at it forever. Think of him as a trend meteorologist, but, with better lighting. He knows how to predict the weather, but with better lighting. I mean, the guy's great. And we dive into everything. We figure out how to identify emerging trends, how to stay ahead of the curve, how to read your audience, and why forecasting in real estate does actually matter, not only in the marketplace, but you as realtors, how important it is to understand shifting buyer attitudes, what actually attracts and keeps clients coming back for more. And also we have a great little section on, when staging a house, the things. He's got some great tips about that. So let's waste no more time talking to me. Let's get into it with my guest today, Mr. Sebastien Fotu from Urban Barn. Look at this. Sebastien, what do you think of my sweater? This sweater is something my wife has been shopping for me. She goes to a lot of secondhand stores. She has brought back probably a box a day of some great finds of old school sweaters. But do I look old in this old school sweater?
No, you don't. Not to me, not at all, not to me. But it's funny that you say that, because I think that you have like vintage shopping and things like this, and the new with the old as well, and things like this is something that we see. So listen to your wife. That's what they say.
Now, listen, you're an expert at seeing these things that we're seeing over periods of time. Trends, something that you are, you have to be dialed into trends, don't you, Sebastien?
Well, this is something that we look at as well. We look at here at Urban Barn. I look at certainly home decor and furniture trends, but you look at trends overall as well to see what influences people. As much as you look at food trends and fashion trends, and also lifestyle activities as well, and the patterns that have changed over the years as well. It is important to see how people interact with their space, but also how they choose to present themselves, how they choose to the choices that they make as well, and how can we connect those dots as well. It's not as unconnected as we think it is.
Right.
When we talk about home decor and lifestyle and the way we present our home, the way we present ourselves, all this is connected. So
it's all connected. Now, Tell me how you first connected with Urban Barn. Tell me about your story. How did you become involved with Urban Barn? What's your background?
Well, it was 28 years ago that I joined Urban Barn. Urban Barn is 35 years in the making, so a proudly Canadian company, still to this day owned and operated in Vancouver.
Yes.
I was a young university student in Montreal and came here on vacation and fell in love with the West Coast. And I decided to move here to do my graduate degree, my master's degree. And then one thing led to another. And I met these two founders who started Urban Barn 35 years ago. And then I joined them when they had 2 stores, and the company grew to what it is today at 55 locations across the country. So that's my journey, and it became truly like a passion for me, like the idea of like being creative and being a business, having a business and a merchant idea, and the idea of being analytical at the same time, and then that's how it happened. And often we think of retailers in Canada starting, in the East Coast, often in Montreal or Toronto, and making their way across the country. But there's, at that time, looking back, there were Lululemon, Aritzia, Arc'teryx, Urban Barn. We all started around the same time in Vancouver, and they all now success story in Canada. So looking back on this, we're proud to what we're doing, and proud to be now across the country as well. So we opened a store in Nova Scotia, and we're so happy with that. So
when you first met the two founders, did you know you wanted to get into retail? Did you know you wanted to get into design? What were the things that drew you to working with them, and how did that relationship start?
Well, my story is a little different because I studied in Canadian literature in French, moved here to pursue it in English, and I got a job in the book industry as a book buyer, which I realized that maybe the business aspect of it I really liked, and I did like this that business was really what really spoke to me, but all and behold, I figured out that maybe there was not a lot of profit and business in the book industry back then was a bit of struggling. Back then, it was Amazon starting selling books at the beginning, and then there was a real competitor. So I joined Urban Barn, but I always knew I was creative. I always knew that, but I really developed the business aspect of it when I joined Urban Barn, and they welcomed me with open arms. And these two guys that says, yeah, you want to be like, you want to do this, like, go for it, and let's move forward. And then this is when we start expanding, to like Edmonton and Calgary, Winnipeg to start with, focusing on the West Coast, and then later on to Ontario, Quebec.
So naturally, your skill set, no matter what it was, you came from books, but yet you had this hunger, and that seemed to align with their early development, because you said they only had 2 stores. Is that correct?
That is exactly what happened. And also, it's a path of a lot of people of maybe of my generation, and even today when I talk to my colleagues here that are younger, it's like we're supposed to decide, and I can speak to a lot of people, very early on, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? But you're supposed to be 17 when you decide that. Well, you kind of know yourself, you know what you don't like. You don't really know maybe what you can develop to become better at as well. So your journey sometimes, and you hear that a lot, where the journey goes in a different direction that you might not have planned, but looking back, it was the right direction that your life took. So this is how I came to do what I do. And but I think it's it's a journey that is not too unfamiliar to a lot of people as well.
So, yeah, because you started early with them and you've been loyal and you've been with them ever since. That is an uncommon path for a lot of people. Usually, like, I'd be speaking to you and you're like, yes, I went to business school, I started my own company. We failed 3 or 4 times. So I got a job as a therapist. Then I became a figure skater. Now I'm jumping back into the retail world, and all the skills that I learned doing the other things that I wasn't supposed to do, I now do. So for you, what were those things early on that you felt most aligned with not only, generally retail, but also Urban Barn specific kind of vision?
Well, I think you're right. I think looking back and say, you've been here for 28 years. It's a long journey, but I haven't done the same thing for 28 years. The company has grew over the years, and I had the chance to grow alongside in the same journey as the company. It's not always the case. Often, people have to choose there's a crossroad. They need to choose the different directions to grow and develop and widen their scope and their expertise as well. For me, the company grew at the same time as I did as a person, both in leadership and business and acquired skills and things like this. And I was really open about adapting to change as well. And that's a big thing. You need to, the market has changed over the years. The access to product, the access to the customer's journey has changed over the years. The social media aspect has changed over the years as well. So when I started, magazines, print magazine was the thing for home decor and furniture. We did participate in that. Then TV shows, segments in TV shows, so the Marilyn Dennis of the world and the City Line of the world, and then HGTV. So you participate and you're embracing that as well. And then it became social media, website. The presence of the website took, a very different part of the journey of an omni-channel retailer. So you need to kind of, as a business and as a person, whatever role you have, I think you need to decide if you're ready to accept change and play a part in change management yourself, and not just ask for change to happen to you, but be active in change, but also learn to develop and grow your skills. And it's been my approach as well, and that's the approach that a company had as well. So over the years, any kind of company, any kind of business, any kind of, you're always going to have some roadblock or some what we call sometimes, walls into, a journey of a company, and they're part of a process of a business. They're part of an evolution of a business. The goal is to work through those walls, and as you get better at it, see them coming and forecasting, the walls are going to happen. And then the choice that you have is then to kind of be an active participant in change, and then in the future be able to look back on those hurdles or roadblocks that you had or big change in the company and say, this was a milestone. It was, and you worked through it. It was a milestone. And it's and anybody personal journey or business journey, I think that's the way I see it. And that's the way we ended up moving forward as well. So for me, yeah, I've been here for a long time, but one can argue that I've been in 4 different urban barns, through the
Right.
journey, because changes happened along the way. But I was open to change and open to grow and develop as well.
That's
You also,
amazing.
yeah, you also have to be open to having new people coming that are from the outside into the organization. They have a different journey, different experience, and I think you have to be open to that coming in and say they have a toolbox that you don't have, and they have experience that you don't have, and I think that's it brings you something, and you can learn from them, because what you can bring is the experience of the legacy of Urban Barn. But
Right.
that's how I see it.
Right. That's amazing. And so, I mean, I remember I was working once on a New Year's Eve special in Newfoundland, and the clock for the countdown in Newfoundland was off by 10 seconds. It was the turn of the new millennium, the Y2K thing, when the world was supposed to end. And the clock was off by 10 seconds in Newfoundland, go figure. But it made us laugh. And the producer I was working with, he said something that has stuck with me forever. He was like, Sean, excellence through flexibility. That was his little grab of that moment. It's like excellence through flexibility. Exactly what you're saying in terms of going with the flow, moving, following the ebb and flow of the company, but also things that are happening with the customer and marketplace, all of that. And so you develop those skills. So what is your position and title, if we can say that, for Urban Barn?
So I've got 2 titles. One is a bit more creative and one a bit more business driven, but I'm the creative director for the company. So
Creative director, big
yes.
role, big role.
So I lead the purchasing team, the planning team, into product assortment, creative directions, colors and feels, and theme for seasons, and directions that we're taking short term, medium term, and long term as well for the product. So that's my title. And then when we look at like the business title is general merchandise manager. So I manage all the product categories, because it's beyond just the purchasing and the design. It's also managing distribution, allocation, product planning, assortment planning, budget that comes part of the mix as well. So it's like, you become good at budgeting, and you didn't think you would want to do that, but you say, oh, this is a skill that I have that maybe I don't like, but I'm not that bad. So that's
Jack
what
of
happens
all
to
trades.
yeah.
Jack of all trades. Now, what are the categories in Urban Barn? What are the product categories? Take me through some.
So we have like, I would say we have 2 big buckets. I think the big buckets are furniture and home decor. These are the 2 big buckets that we have. Yeah, we have outdoor furniture in the summer. We have holiday decor at Christmas. And then so it's, this is the exciting part. Decor is the exciting part also, where you can, be a bit more playful and a bit more whimsical, and maybe take a bit more chances in colors and textures and styles and so on and so
So
forth. Yeah.
you really have to be dialed into what's trending and what isn't.
You have to dial into what's trending, and both in a trend per se, but also you have to read and understand your customers. And often the best way to do this is to analyze product performance and see what did well, what did not do well, what colors did well, what scale did well, and if it did, why, and if it did not, why. Was it the price point? Was it the scale? Was it the color? Was it because it was sometimes ahead of the trend? It happened before. So sometimes did you push it too far too early, and then or is it just maybe the trend has tapered down as well, which happens as well.
So where do you spend more time thinking about, are you forecasting? Are you reading the tea leaves? Are you looking into your crystal ball and you're kind of going, I think this is happening. It's big in Australia, it's happening in the States. Maybe we can get ahead of it here. Or are you taking your cues from the customer who's saying, we don't like this or we really want this, and then therefore you're kind of playing catch up. Like, that's a real challenge. Like, how do you make those forecasts, and what are you looking for inspiration?
Well, it's funny you're referring to the crystal ball because it's a running gag at the office right now when we talk about buyers and sellers. What's in your crystal ball for 2027, for
Yeah.
example, as we work like 12 to 18 and up to 24 months in advance. So, in your head and in your office physically, it's a big clipboard of information because we do travel around the world. So we spend time in Germany and I travel personally, and this is where business and hobby and lifestyle blends in a little bit. So you know, uh, my friends and family, they go like, "Oh, on your vacation, are we gonna go like at furniture stores again?" I'm like, "Yes, you bet we will. This is what we do in Amsterdam. This is what we do in Valencia. This is why not?"
Yes.
So yeah,
You're
it's
going to
it's
haggle. You're going to experience the local
this is
markets. I
fun.
love
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
I love. Yeah, and we're gonna go to thrifting in Paris. Oh, yes, we will.
Yes.
That's fun. Yes, we will. Maybe I can find a print that would be inspiring, and maybe is there a real thing about tapestry coming back or needlepoint as an accent for
Mm.
textiles? So yeah, there's a big clipboard of information, and trying to make sense of it. You want a rounded assortment, in each of the subcategories that you do to make sure that you have a balanced look and a balance, and you want to push it to be exciting and fresh and new, but not push it too far that it's unrelatable for people. So
Mm.
you want to make sure that there's a relationship with the product. So I think it's a very fine balance there.
And I would
Yeah.
imagine, when you have a market like Montreal, very progressive, very forward thinking, and then you may have somewhere that maybe isn't quite as bold in choices. Does that affect, what trends are happening regionally? Or is it Urban Barn across the board? This is what we stand for. This is where we're going.
Well, this is a very good question. I think that looking back on this, when social media and even television, for that matter, was not as prevalent in the way people connected with trend and style, I think there was a bit more of a difference geographically within the country. We don't see it as much anymore. I say a bestseller and a customer's favorite article or item or collection is a favorite across the country. So that's no denying. But the question, so I think we see that as well. Is there certain demand and for other product in certain areas? Sometimes it's more due to scale of where the store is located within a trading area. For example, if you have a store that is an urban store in Toronto versus a suburban store in Toronto, possibly, not always, but the larger scale furniture might be doing better in the suburban area where the homes could be larger, as opposed to, an urban area where, space is at a premium, where people chose to live, in an urban space. They forfeited space, the amount of space they have to live there. So sometimes smaller scale do better in areas. So sometimes we see that as well. Yeah, for example, maybe when people live in condominiums, large extension dining table maybe don't do as well in urban areas. Certainly, they do really well in suburban areas, for example. Yeah, but we also know that everybody needs counter stool, for example. So the other thing that we realize is that condo dwellers or urban dwellers, we call them, they might have a smaller space, but they always going to have a counter or a kitchen island or a peninsula to have counter stools. So is the people in the suburbs as well, and people in rural areas. So for example, for us, our counter stool categories is wide and varied and very popular. We do really well, and we are a destination for counter stools because they appeal to all demographic and all type of living as well, for example.
Do they all have backs?
Well, you know what? Every season we try to bring some without backs because visually, there's a look there. They're never as popular as the ones with the backs. People want back support,
Yeah.
and they want comfort as well because I think they use it a lot more than we think. And a lot of people are using counter stools to eat most likely Monday to Friday, because of the lifestyle and everything, and feeding the kids, and or being single, and buying
Right.
multitasking at a kitchen islands and things like this. So, but we try to bring some without bags, but they're not always successful.
But again, that's the balance that you have to kind of weigh with regards to what a customers want versus what you think looks the best or is best. So let me ask you on that kind of prediction model, what are the things, like the top three things that you look for when determining, of all those categories, how something may be trending? What are the top three things you look for?
Well, the first thing is that we look around and we get inspired. That's the first thing we do. So truly to try to understand, sometimes I go to fabric shows just to look at upholstery fabric.
Mm.
So you look at what's trending and things like, but then you see, how does that relate? How does that fit within, for example, whether it's furniture, decor, material, like fabric or wood finishes, or even so how does that fit within the assortment, and how does that fit within the Urban Barn design aesthetics that we established, or design styles that we have established for ourselves? So how does that fit in, and how does that relate to the Canadian consumer as well? Where you know are they is it something that we see them connecting with? And now with experience, we understand more and more what maybe the Urban Barn customers or the Canadian consumer are looking for and what they connect with as well. We know they like comfort. We know they like texture. We know they're like something that has is aesthetically pleasing, but they don't want to forfeit the comfort for style.
When you talk about, you have the three of you essentially. You have the two founders, you have yourself, and then you have to make some decisions in the upcoming season. And you said you could be looking, like, what did you say, up to 28 months in advance? Like you're
Yeah.
trending for 27, you're working on it early 2026, and so on, all the way down the line. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say. And also to kind of clarify this is that the two founders, one of them totally left the business since,
Oh,
so
yes.
totally
Okay.
kind of yeah. And the other one is still a shareholder,
Yeah.
but no longer works at Urban Barns. I'm the only one who's still physically active in the business
Oh.
today. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I'm the only one who's still here active. That being said, I was quite a bit younger than them, so as well. So,
Yeah.
but I'm the only one from the original crew who's still working here at Urban Barn as the
But you have a
most.
team. You
Oh
must have a
yes.
team.
Oh, we have a great team. Yeah, yeah, we have a great team as well. Yeah, of course. Yeah. My goal is to make sure that everybody's aligned and we're work together in the same direction, and we achieve our deadlines and our goals, and we have enough inventory to support the demand.
When you're making these decisions as a team, um, do you find that there are opportunities to take a big risk? Do you find that risk is something that you try to avoid, or if you do make a big risk, like what are the factors that come into play when you're trying to make a big creative risk, take a big creative risk?
Well, I like to say that we're going to have to make calculated risk. I know it's always the right answer to say, like,
Yeah.
that's the goal. So you look at you try to analyze, what your decision is, and you try to understand the reason why you would be making such decision as well. We can take more risk, and if you think about product purchasing, for example, we can take more risk in such. We know what category we can take more risk. For example, we know that accent furniture, people are more inclined to be a bit more playful, whimsical, add more colors, and be a bit more on the edge. The larger core pieces that are more expensive or more of an investment, you want to calculate your risk there as well. So
Yeah.
this is the kind of decisions you make as well. But even when you decide to onboard a new vendor, for example, is this a risk? How do you calculate that risk? So you don't, for example, put all your eggs in the new vendor's basket. You give them a chance to prove themselves before you give them a larger piece of the pie within your assortment. That's an example, for example. So there's a strategy involved and calculation involved with the risk that you take, whether it's a business decision or it's an assortment or a purchasing decision as well.
Right. So as you step into your time machine and you go back 20, 30 years, and you think about the risks that people were taking back then, there has to have been some swings and maybe misses, or maybe they were hits then, but now we look back and we go, "Oh, was probably a miss. It'd be a
Well,
miss today.
well,
You know
I
what I
think,
mean?
yeah, I know. That's true because,
Like I'm guilty. I bought rugby pants and I had frosted tips at one point. Like those were swings, but I was hot back then. But now I would
looking
never
back,
do that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then also as a business, we grew with our customers. We grew with the Canadians that supported us. So certainly at the beginning, it was we were looking at where do we fit within the Canadian landscape? Where do we fit as a brand? What is our aesthetic? So we this was all part of the equation. We did buy things looking back on this that I would never buy again. At the end
Like
of the
what?
day, oh, we had, for example, we talk about different design aesthetics, and we
Yeah.
were buying things that are a bit more glam, I would say, or kind of or Hollywood classic, I would say, or Vegas classic. So
Ooh.
table lamps and floor lamp with crystals and with very,
Mm.
very a bit blingy and things like this. Looking
Yes.
back, it was. Yeah, my Liberace period, I call it. So
Yeah.
but it was hard to let them go at the beginning because looking back, we did a lot. We made a lot of money. They were successful. But looking back, it was really outside of what we should have done. It's not because there's only so much you can buy. It's not because you can sell it that it does justice to your brand and to the other product around it as well. So the crystal chandelier, was good then, but it's not something you would do again.
Right.
If even looking back, I've got files of old creative direction that I did even 10, 15 years ago, and where the colors for summer were really bold, bright teals and bright oranges and bright yellows. And it sold. It did really well. We were really successful. It's not something that people are attracted to today. Today the
Well,
direction is so different. The
yeah.
colors are very, very soft and organic, nature inspired. They're soothing color palettes. They're not nothing is bold and everything. But so looking back, but we do the same thing with fashion. I think we're look back, as you said, like, oh, the fashion choice that we made or people made 15 years ago, and then 20 years ago, you're like, yeah, I think I was hot back then. I'm not sure this is something that I would do today. And don't show this to your kids because they're gonna be like, ay, 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 ay.
It does feel like, yeah, more earthy, generally speaking, wood, getting back to nature. That feels like that is really trending right now. And it feels good. There's a feeling associated with trends. I mean, how do you draw from your own personal emotional connection to things, or how much of it is data driven?
Well, I know. I think it is data driven, but also I think you have to read the times as well.
Yeah.
Certainly, without looking back, but a few years ago, there was a big change that forced people to stay at home a lot more. And then the work remotely for some people was very intense for a period of time. It became more of an hybrid situation for some, but they rediscovered their homes, and I think that was a big change as well. And the way they use their space became very different as well. So I think they're starting to own their home in a different way and use their space in a different way. And you can see the difference as well. You can see the shift in the behavior of what people were looking for as well. The colors that people were looking for. It became people were looking for a sanctuary that was clear. People looking for something that is comforting. People that is, and that changed very quickly. Also, inflation. We saw this inflation going up very quickly as well. Where maybe going out for dinner, a group of six friends, maybe are you better off having people at home, for a tenth of the price, really, and as much fun, if not more, because it's a bit more of a relaxed atmosphere. So I think that changed a lot. So the emphasis on your home and how you create a space, and now do you make this inviting not only for yourself, not only for your family or your spouse, or yourself if you're single, from even but how do you make it for inviting for others as well and make them feel welcome? I think that changed very quickly as well. And we've seen that as well. And often, like even the bedroom that was often the forgotten room in a space, because people felt like the bedroom, nobody goes in the bedroom. There's no guests in the bedroom. There's no family members in the bedroom. The bedroom became even more of a sanctuary over the years as well. And we've seen a drastic change as well. So not only in colors and trends and feel, but the purpose of the space and how we can reappropriate the space as well became very apparent as well. And we've seen this in trend of like also like home decor, but also in cooking and baking and anything and gardening, everything is home related. I think we've seen this as well.
And so when we talk about Canadian, I think about Canada. I've recently repatriated back to Canada. I'm a self-deported, repatriated, born-again new Canadian. So proud to be back. How does Urban Barn kind of tap into that Canadian mentality and kind of express what it is to be Canadian versus, let's say, a U.S. market? Or is there any differentiation there?
Well, I think the first is our like really for us, we realize that even more so today than ever before, acknowledging and sharing with everybody that we are a Canadian brand. For us, on a business aspect of it for Urban Barn, since day one, we partner with Canadian manufacturers for our upholstery categories. So a lot of the product we have in our store, not all of it clearly, but a lot of it is made in Canada. So we have it on hand available to ship right now, and we also have them like made to order as well, so you can change the fabric and you reconfigure the product. And that's a huge part of our business, and it gives a chance also to people who come to our stores and go online for us to really customize a piece of furniture that truly maximizes their space, and they can really make it their own as well by saying like, okay, no, I'm looking for this color, this texture, this fabric. I've got kids, I've got pets. Oh, I don't have kids, I don't have pets, and things like this. And my room is a little funky, so I need to have a sectional, but that kind of shape of sectional. And then you say, oh, and then she says, my husband is 6'6", but I'm 5'2", so we need to make sure both bodies are fitting. So that's also what we have to,
That's so interesting.
It happens all the time. So we have to, okay, how do we make this work for everybody? So everybody's happy. So we do made to order product as well, and we also have a lot of stock upholstery made in Canada as well. So, but we love these puzzles. We love this idea of like, it's great for us.
You travel around the world, you see all these different countries that are leading the way. I can think of a few countries when, we see furniture design and so on and so forth that seem to be the lead influencers around the world. What do you see as being the lead influencers around the world when it comes to within Urban Barn? But then also in a magical world where you can say, I'm going to lead the Canadian trend around the world. What are the countries that are leading the way? And if you could be hired by the Canadian government and say, listen, I need you to spread Canada and its design all over the world, what would be the things that you would like to spread all over the world that says, we are Canada?
Well, I think the first thing is like, where in the world, like, do I get inspired? Do I think that I can get some, I think that the Netherlands and Belgium and France and Germany, I think there's something there as well in the colors and the textile and the material and the wood that I use. So often I get cues there as well to say, how can I make this, practical for people? How can I make this work for people? They might use a lot of linen textiles, for example, for upholstery. Well, a linen sofa is not necessarily the most practical. So I can achieve a look like this by having something that's more practical because Canadians are more practical, for example. So these are the things that I look at. But a market, for example, another fun information is that a market is very similar to Canada in aesthetics is Australia. But it kind of makes sense when you think about it, although it's halfway around the world. But it's a very. But Australians are very similar aesthetics as well and things like this. And what's fun is that their seasons are often than ours, so they need their outdoor furniture when we need our, when we don't and things like this. But at the same time, they need Christmas product and outdoor furniture at the same time, which is always funny as well.
Can you speak to what you would do to you're the lead ambassador for Canadian design around the world? Go.
Well, I think I would say like for Urban Barn, like we're like our core is, contemporary furniture with rustic materials and where we don't sacrifice style for comfort. And I think we this is what we do, and we offer like a suiting color palette. We don't sacrifice comfort, and we also want for people to have a chance to. We want to inspire them to create a space that reflects who they are. and then I want them to feel right at home. And our tagline is right at home. So that's our thing. So yeah.
Sebastian, this is amazing. I love all these insights. I mean, we've talked a lot about design trends. We've talked about Canadian pride. We've talked about Urban Barn and how they are such an amazing company in Canada, Canadian owned, Canadian operated. But we're a podcast about realtors. We are the podcast for realtors. But there's a lot of parallels here when we talk about trends, when we talk about how to really see what's happening out there. And I think someone like you can give some insight into what are the things that even realtors have to look for when considering broad trends, whether it be in specific housing, design within the housing, when you're staging a home. Talk a little bit about that, like how realtors should think about approaching trends to follow, but also finding the balance between that and staying true to themselves and their customers as a business philosophy.
Well, this is very apropos that you're asking me this question, because one of the things that we do here, we do look at listings, property listings in markets. Number one, if we want to go to a new market, we want to say, what's for sale? What properties are for sale in that market? What's happening in that market? Scale, size, and so we look at that. We also look at resale properties in current markets as well to see what people are needing and what kind of floor plan are people are doing. Maybe it's going to give us some insight to, what we have to bring into assortment and things like this. And also for me, I think because I'm in the industry of home decor and furniture, and so I've been really successful in real estate myself. Like I think it's my 6th or 7th property that I've bought and renovated and resold, and 4 out of those were sold with the furniture. So not that I was asking, but people did ask, can I bring it? Can I buy all the furniture and everything? So my agent said, well, actually, he's in the furniture industry, so this is why maybe it looks like that. So it looks so put together. And that a floor plan is done, to that matter. So, but I think it is important to, we all know the basic of real estate listings and things like this, to make sure that, you declutter, you remove all personal belongings, personal pictures and things like this. That goes without saying, like these are the basic lines. But I think really be a bit more, especially when, when business is not always as rosy as it once was and things like this, and there's some highs and some lows. Really kind of like working with the client to make sure that the space is really ready, really picture ready, and sometimes some minor adjustments would go a long way. I often see like furniture placement and space planning, on a listing not done to the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, talk to me about that. I love that idea of, the little things go a long way, but I think some clients, they're not sure. They're like, I got to change the entire home because I've lived in it for so long and it needs a full refresh.
Yeah, well, I think, so it depends where you are, but depends also where the listing, who you're planning, who is this property listed for, and who's it going to attract. But for example, I have a friend and he lives in a condo. Okay, he's got 2 babies. Like it's too much for 2 babies. I'm like, well, you need to remove clearly if it's too small for you for 2 babies. You don't want to have any of the baby stuff in that property when you list it, because you don't want to sell it to somebody with 2 babies. You want to, that was done. You bought this, you were a bachelor and it was perfect. I think you need to make it look like a bachelor apartment, a bachelor condo, like a stylish place, a stylish pad. Because if you make it look like too small for a family, I'm not sure who you're going to sell it to. So, but sometimes even like a larger home, like I think sometimes you look at, maybe the sofa and the 2 accent chairs are placed in a certain way because it suits your lifestyle, which is great and nobody's judging that, but it's not doing the space justice. It's blocking the windows, it's blocking the light, it's blocking the view as you walk in the pathway. So moving the furniture around, replacing the furniture, often adding an area rug to define a space, in an open floor plan makes a huge difference as well, because it creates a living room area, a dining area, and a kitchen area. So adding a rug, not buying too small of a rug. This is a big mistake. Go big, an 8 by 10, follow the rules, 8 by 10, 9 by 12. Don't go with a 5x8 because you want to save money. It's not worth it.
Ah,
There's a lot. It's very, and then there's rules in place where should the furniture be on and things like this. So I think investing on like things like this, like rugs and space planning, goes a long way, even
okay.
if it's only for photography, for example,
Well,
because
yeah.
because first impression, we know, like, this is it. Like, if you don't get a good first impression online, you're not gonna get a viewing. So I think these things are important in the bedroom. We not say I don't say like change the entire bedroom furniture. But what goes a very long way is cleaning up the bedding, updating the bedding, having something that is lighter, brighter. It goes a long way, updating the bedding. It's, a rug and bedding are the easiest thing to do to update a
Yeah.
space, and there's no elbow grease involved.
Okay, what's the rule? What is the rule about window treatments?
Well, often a home will have, roll blinds or shutters and things like this that are already in place. And I think often those are sufficient. What I often see people for privacy or for sleeping or for sometimes because of their work schedule, they need to have an extra layer of drapes on top of it.
Mm,
So sometimes in a smaller room, maybe not in a smaller home, but in a smaller home, it makes a space look very small sometimes. So it might be, you might need it. You might need it because of your schedule, because you have to go to bed at 7 o'clock, p.m., throughout the year. And so you need to have blackout drapes or you need to sleep in or something like this. You might need them, but is it giving the room the best, that's the question. And
right.
the opposite is, if you have a larger home, having drapes in a larger space could cozy up the space and add a layer of privacy. So I think it's very room dependent and space dependent. But I think you
Right.
can't, you don't, I see like in small rooms and small bedrooms, if you don't really need an extra layer for the listing, I would say remove it. At the same time, if you have a larger space and if you want to make it more cozy because it looks too stark and uninviting, it is going to cozy up the space for sure. And that's purely for your listing purposes
That's
as
what I
well.
mean. Yeah, like
Yeah.
because we also don't want to, one of the things that we debated was we had some cool furniture that did look amazing in pictures. However, it was bold and our fear was if I'm a buyer and I'm coming into this space and I'm seeing all this amazing cool furniture, it's not really my taste. Even though they know that the furniture is going to be gone, it's like how do you balance that out? How flat and neutral do you want everything to be so that they can imagine their own selves in that space and do the things that they would do versus making it attractive and cool and hip to trick the brain into thinking, dude, I gotta have this space, even though this isn't gonna be my furniture.
Well, it is a fine line as well. But sometimes you might have to remove a few pieces,
Mm,
although that are might be dear to you, to remove a few pieces to make it more palatable for people, and either replace it with something else or just leave it empty. So that's one way to do this. And sometimes you might have to add something. I know it's kind of counterintuitive because I want to sell my home. I'm not going to buy not two accent chairs, but you have a space in a home that you could show a purpose for. It might be a good investment, for the money you could really make at the end, to invest in buying two accent chairs and a side table to give a purpose to that space. And it sounds and it looks counterintuitive as well. But at the same time, if you look at what the money's at stake, spending, I'm saying like, $1,000 or $2,000, whatever it is, might go a long way as well. It's not like this furniture is thrown away either. So, you're going to be able to repurpose it somewhere else when you move. But I think sometimes certain things like this, investing money, could sound counterintuitive, but I think it turns out to be often a good investment from my
right,
experience and from the experience that I've seen in the marketplace as well.
right. What would you say then are the top home decor trends right now?
Right now, it's texture is very, people are really focusing on texture. I think we often thought of space planning, of scale of furniture, of aesthetics of furniture, but I think people are putting a lot of emphasis on textures of woods, of fabrics, of leathers, of metals. I think texture is a big thing. I think nature-inspired color palettes are very on trend right now, and they're very suiting. So a lot of beiges, the creams, and so on and so forth. Even like cognac for leather are really popular as well right now. In accent colors, also nature-inspired. So the greens and the blues are still doing well. They've been doing well with quite a few seasons, but it's pretty much, nature, the ocean and the sky, but the greens, it's really easy actually with like a green accent chair, green accents, and you pop a plant in the corner and you have a focal point very easily. So, and then a new color that's kind of like it's been awakened for a few seasons now. It's more like the oranges and the burnt orange and terracotta colors also are
Yeah.
doing well as well. But again, this is all nature and very earthy and very nature inspired as well.
Yeah.
It's a big thing for us. And then in wood tones, I think right now in 2026, we're seeing a shift in the wood tones a little bit as well. So a lot of the wood tones over the past few years were really light. So a very kind of light wood tones, like a bit almost like a gray wash or white wash to it, or like sun bleach. Now it's a bit warmer. It's more like true wood tones are warming up as well, things like this.
Like the
And then
temperature, it's warming up generally, 'cause
warming
there
up.
was that repurposed wood, the barn door, the barn
Yeah.
wood furniture, that whole thing.
Yeah.
That may be softening a little bit now, is what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, we're seeing that. And as far as aesthetics, we're seeing a bit of a revival in something called, we call it like new classics. So furniture that is in what we call case goods in the industry, which is like hardwood furniture. So in bedroom, dining, and living room, which new classics, a bit more. We saw it with the bobbin design on the legs and the cone legs and things like this, and we're seeing a bit more ornate, but still kind of contemporary modern. But we're seeing this new classic being revived over the past 2 seasons, and it's
That's
still going
cool.
forward as well. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
are designers now designing in that trend, or are there a lot of, repurposed older pieces that are coming to the fore again, or both?
Well, this is exactly how it started. It started with people doing thrifting or using their grandparents' furniture and things like this,
Yeah.
and incorporating this into our heirloom pieces, incorporating this to their space. So that's how it started. But now new furniture is being designed following that aesthetic and that trend as well. So, but it was inspired by vintage pieces being introduced to homes, yeah, or being kept as well, just old secretaries and things like that, yeah.
So what would you say, all on that tip, there's homeowners, there's designers, but then when you're talking directly to realtors, what do you think? You've dealt with a lot of realtors in your life. So from a design perspective and bringing your expertise, what is the biggest and most important piece of advice that you could give to realtors when dealing with clients, new listings, etc.?
I think they really need to focus on first impression, and they really need to kind of like, it's a very delicate, we know it's a delicate conversation between, the client and the realtor to make sure that a place is, picture ready and viewing ready. It's very delicate. It's less delicate if you have a long lasting relationship with a client, certainly, but certainly with new clients, it's delicate because you don't want to offend people and you want to make them understand that you're not judging their space. You're trying to make it look as picture ready as possible to maximize the sales potential, because there's nothing better. Like first impressions are most important now, especially now with social media and listings and the way it's done, because people want travel. So I think this is a really big thing as well, and making them understand that they might have to invest a bit of time and money, and by adding pieces in order to really maximize their sales potential and their opportunity as well. So I think this is always a fine line, and it's always like a little delicate conversation, but I think you're doing everybody a justice, and I think at the end of the day they will thank you for the way it's going to be presented and the way it's going to be ideally shown as well.
Amazing. I cannot think of a better way to end this conversation with that wonderful piece of advice for our realtors who are watching this today. I mean, so much on so many fronts, from a design perspective, from a purchasing perspective, from a homeowner and flipper and buyer and seller yourself. This has been an amazing, fascinating conversation, Sebastian. So thank you so much for joining us today on Real Time. I hope the conversation was enjoyable for you as well.
Yeah, it was great talking to you. That was perfect. It was a lot of fun, so I appreciate it so much.
Awesome. Go Urban Barn. Shop Canadian.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you.
Big thank you to Sébastien Fautou today for hanging out with us, creative director for the Urban Barn, Canadian-owned, Canadian-operated. I love hearing stories about that. I mean, the guy is a master trend forecaster, which is wild when most of us spend most of our time thinking about how do we just keep up. So I learned a lot today. And, when it comes to realtors, I find it very interesting to think about things, not only to react to trends that are happening in the marketplace, but also to analyze, to anticipate, to interpret, and then guide your clients through all of these ever-changing waters. So thank you to Sebastian for our great conversation. Of course, if you like today's episode, go subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Today's episode of Real Time is brought to you by the Canadian Real Estate Association, CREA, and production courtesy of Alphabet Creative. We'll see you all next time on Real Time. My name is Sean Majumder. Peace.